Hello, everyone. This is the World Now. We begin from the Middle East, where Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has clearly stated his opposition to the United States proposal for the establishment of a Palestinian state immediately the ongoing conflict in Gaza comes to an end. In a news conference, Mr. Netanyahu reaffirmed he will press on with the offensive in Gaza until Israel gets complete victory.
Publicly rejecting Washington's diplomatic push, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the destruction of Hamas and the return of the remaining Israeli hostages are also his major targets, and it could take many more months for that to be achieved. Israel's allies, including the U.S. and many of its opposing nations, have been asking for the revival of the long-dormant two-state solution in which a future Palestinian state could sit side by side with an Israeli state. With almost 25,000 Palestinians killed in Gaza, according to the Hamas-run health ministry, and 85% of the Strip's population displaced, Israel is under pressure to curb its offensive and embrace meaningful talks over a sustainable end to the war. The Israeli military has announced that dozens of Palestinian fighters from Hamas have been killed in what it called close-quarter combat in Khan Yunis. This is as the Israeli president demands the delivery of medicines to Israeli hostages in Gaza and an end of hostility by Hamas.
We have 136 hostages who are there, including 4 from the 2014 war, including Muslims, including women, foreign nationals, young girls, older women, Holocaust survivors or connected to the Holocaust. So you have from 1-year-old to 85-year-old. People of peace, many of them were advocates of peace. Oded Lifshitz was a major advocate of peace. He would work in Gaza. These communities were burned and ruined and brought to ashes were communities that advocated endlessly working for peace with the Palestinians.
On the flip side, the UN is calling for more freedom for the movement of much more aid into Gaza.
Of an operation to deliver additional and much-needed medicines and medical supplies to the civilian population in the Gaza Strip, and to deliver vital medicines to hostages currently held. The entry of these critical supplies and humanitarian aid to Gaza is encouraging. However, much more aid needs to come in to the Gaza Strip.
According to the Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza, more than 24,600 persons have been killed in the Strip since the Israeli military launched a large-scale air and ground campaign in response to the raid by Hamas on the 7th of October last year.
Joining me live from London is Global Affairs Analyst Benga Onifade. Thank you for joining us on the World Now. What do you make of the fallout of Israel and America saying things differently in this regard? What potential impact can it have on the relations between both countries?
Sure. Good afternoon. There's the fear that, of course, this war, which started, of course, as a result of Hamas' initial strike, depending on how you want to see it, on the 21st of October last year. I think initially, of course, everyone's always been happy, should I say everyone, I mean the United States government, the G7 government generally have been happy for Israel, to have the rights to defend itself. But at the moment, I think that with the extent of, how long this has dragged and of course the extent of human casualties, we're talking about, over 25 as a result of, by independent Hamas publicists, people think, okay, this has actually gone too far. And this is a speech this is a sentiment that everyone is actually being on the side, which is there should be a two-state solution. And of course, it's an election year. Biden's actually feeling the heat at home. And of course, he's eventually passing it on. Benjamin Netanyahu said it before, whether, United States cut off the funding or not. He's willing to press on until he gets the job done. And I think, but majorly the most important thing is that nobody's actually surprised, because if you look at by Benjamin Netanyahu, I mean, this was the third time being the prime minister, fourth time. He made that famous speech at the 2000 Babylon speech when he had a conference when he said he believes in the two-state solution alongside Palestine, as long as, from Israel's perspective, and as long as Jerusalem becomes their capital. But now he's actually flip-flops, and like I said again, nobody's surprised. It's not the first time being the prime minister. If he actually wanted it, I think there would have been talks. He withdrew from the conversation with Barack Obama, and of course, he's somebody with a very military mindset. And I think you probably could cut clips from one of the things he said before, when he did say, he was going to get a job done until there's no more Palestine in sight. But unfortunately, we are not surprised.
You talked about the human casualty and, the depth of humanitarian crisis. Attention is turned to the 25,000 Palestinians that have been killed in Gaza. That figure is according to the Hamas-run health ministry, and some 85% of the Strip's population that have now been displaced. How long more can Israel hold on to its support from its Western friends in the face of these, very scary figures?
Well, I mean, the allies will be the allies no matter what, and I believe they will stand by Israel. However, there will be a, the former Prime Minister United Churchill used to say, Giorgio, less Giorgio, sorry, less war, more Giorgio. So I think there will be more pressure from inside, because at the end of the day, of course, you are just creating more conflict. This is not actually getting resolved. This is actually gone. I mean, people thought it was going to go global faster than he is actually getting right now. You could see the Houthis from Yemen. They have actually been intercepting, certain shape, which is from certain countries, should we say? There's that famous or infamous strike last week from United Kingdom and United States. But Biden just said, just less than 24 hours ago, he realized that even this military is not solving the problem. So this is getting more global now, and it's affecting other countries. Would it get into a global conflict? Probably. It's going to get into a little bit more chaos, but I don't think it's going to get into that World War scenario that people are thinking. But again, there will be, he said, there's an election this year from Israeli. He's actually been pushing it back with no dates announced. There's an election in the United Kingdom, and likewise the United States. So all these things, from a philosophical point of view, will be intertwined, and eventually, things might not be going out, but there will be constant phone calls being made.
Talking about the elections this year, the Biden administration is also apparently getting some heat back for its seemingly blanket support for Israel, with some now calling to put conditions on U.S. aid to its Middle East ally. Is there a sense to which local politics that you've highlighted in these countries, like the U.S., will significantly affect the quality of support, as we've come to know it, that Israel is going to be getting in the future?
Oh, I believe so. You have actually seen, if you're going to touch on the support they get in the funds, which you could say, the American economies remain resilient. It's quite strong. Inflation is coming down, even though it's still quite a little bit above the target that they like. But at the end of the day, the people are saying the cost of things are too high. There have been, issues of homelessness. Things are not abating. So at the end of the day, why are you still giving out this money? So people are saying, well, you might as well divert the funds and solve the problem in America. The United Kingdom equally giving out funds. There are still train strikes. The doctors and the strikes, things are not coming down at all. So yes, it's having an effect. And if you think about it, Trump, despite the politics that's going on, is actually making the right noises, and you can see there's a big sway towards that end. And it's only a matter of time before Biden decides, before we actually get these funds out, we need certain conditions to be met, and that will, things would eventually play out, and it's a very crucial year, but I believe so, yes.
Recent polls have now shown most Israelis want Prime Minister Netanyahu to prioritize bringing the remaining hostages home over the potentially impossible aim of destroying Hamas. Some believe both are mutually exclusive. Israel may not be able to bring back all the hostages if it doesn't relax its stance on the Palestinian sovereignty. Do you agree?
Oh, I think I agree with that because regardless of everything has been, Benjamin Netanyahu has been doing, doesn't seem to be working. They've been blowing out, figuring out tunnels, but they just don't know where these people are. And I think if you think about I don't want to call it a friendly fire. What happened just a few days ago? Two of the hostages died as a result of the IDF's strikes. So things are not exactly working. And even by the time you get these hostages, is that the end? Because Benjamin Netanyahu, he believes there will be a military solution, and he wants to see the end of Hamas gone forever and ever. But but at the same time, you've got these children now who have been birthed into this chaos, this war, and they're actually seeing this thing. So they're going to grow up, and then we're going to have that cycle. So I absolutely do agree. This is not there's not one. It's not as simple as we're just going to kill them or make the rubber bounce. Because literally right now there's nothing else to strike. So I do agree. You're not just going to create a military solution without So you need both sides to talk. There will have to be Hamas involvement of some sort, really. And Benjamin Netanyahu, no matter what, he's going to have to come to the glass, and they're going to have to talk. And that's how they can bring the solution. And of course, you're right. The heat is coming out now. People say, regardless of what it is, we just want the people back home, and that's what it is. There's been pauses. Some people are coming, but at the end of the day, you still have majority. And Hamas is still saying, you know what, we're still holding its cards until we get until all strikes stop. You're not getting all these people back.
The challenge with the diplomatic alternative, however, is how much it's been able to achieve in the last years. A two-state solution for so long has been touted as the solution to the Israeli-Palestine crisis. But in reality, is a peaceful existence, between Palestine and Israel feasible based on what we've seen play out in the past years?
I think so. You've got the Arab friends now or neighbors who are saying, you know what, we are willing to rebuild relationships with Israel, but of course on this one condition. They've actually said, you know what, everything's off the table now. We're not talking anymore. And if you think about it as well, looking at the map, Israel is surrounded by enemies, like they say. So if Palestine are able to have their own state, fortunately, with some of their lands now, some of the areas, some of the regions being occupied by Israel illegally, of course, some of them, and while at the same time, as a result of this war, Benjamin Netanyahu was saying, you know what, there's this common saying which has been touted by Palestine from the rivers to the sea. But right now, he said, all that security is going to be in our, we're going to be in charge of all that. And if you think about it, that's kind of like another domination in a sense, really. But I believe if Palestinians are able to write their own law, vote for their own thing, for their own rules, their own governments, have their own freedom, and of course the support of the Arab neighbors around Israel, of course, absolutely, it will be possible.
There's the school of thought that the attack on Hamas may have also radicalized a lot of people on the side of Hamas, and seeing that the possibility of a repeat of the October 7 attack is very feasible in the coming days if Israel doesn't find alternative to fighting this war. But that's our time. Benga Onifade is Global Affairs Analyst. He joins us live from London. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you.
And just after President